Hey girlfriend, this is Jan James. Welcome to the Hope After Breast Cancer podcast, where women who have endured breast cancer learn to have fulfillment over frustration, clarity over confusion, and faith over fear. We tackle the issues that many of our sisters face after a breast cancer diagnosis, from brain fog to fear of recurrence, from menopause to sex after breast cancer. This is the place to learn how to have hope after breast cancer. So strap yourself in. Welcome to the Hope After Breast Cancer podcast. Hi there, it's Jan James, and I am the founder of Hope After Breast Cancer. We have served thousands of women over the last decade and some through our private support groups on Facebook. And one of the things that has been most joyful for me is to watch the growth and the way that women are being served in our sex after breast cancer private support group. There are thousands and thousands of women there growing every day. Amazing conversations. But here's the coolest part. When I first started the sex after breast cancer group in 2017, as a result of my own personal needs, I knew that there must be answers out there. Like, none of my oncology team could find or tell me answers when I was asking them, why am I having painful intercourse? What happened to my libido? Yada, da, da, da. And they were like, yeah, not my, it's not my lane or whatever. And I just knew there had to be answers out there. So I went and found them. I went and found experts that had the answers, and then I asked them if they would join us. So now we have dozens of experts, professional experts, that are guiding the conversation inside our groups, helping educate our women about how a breast cancer diagnosis may have impacted their body, and helping them find solutions to heal. They're going to give you information that will help you learn what to talk to your own providers about. So let's see, my goal is to help get you educated about how breast cancer treatment and reduced hormones can impact your body. My goal is to help you learn about potential solutions that our experts talk about so that you can take those solutions to your own providers to discuss and make a game plan. My goal is to give you hope. I want to make sure that you know something about me. I am not an expert. I am not a medical professional. I am just Jan. I am just like you. I am a woman that fought breast cancer. I am fighting my own personal battles that started after my diagnosis. Unfortunately, the war against breast cancer is a lifelong one, but in this discussion, we're going to just focus on one battle at a time, okay? Today, we're talking about the battle to take back your vagina, okay? So now that that's out of the way, okay, we're going to talk about all things vagina today from my personal perspective. Remember, I'm just Jan, my perspective. I have learned a ton since I was diagnosed. I have learned a ton from our women. A lot of that is just super sad. It is a super, super sad story about how our intimate lives were stolen from us by breast cancer. It is super sad to me that the oncology community did not warn most of us, especially the younger girls. They're in their 20s or 30s, and they got diagnosed with breast cancer, and they weren't warned that they were going to go into, medically induced menopause, and they would have painful intercourse. They would lose their, all this stuff. It's so sad. And I think that many of us are just like so sad because we can't find solutions, that we just become like paralyzed, hopeless. Newsflash number one. There are answers to reclaiming your sex life after breast cancer. You just need to know how to get to them. Hi there, I'm Jan James. I'll be your tour guide. Okay, so let's get back to what I learned. So I have learned a ton from our experts. We have quite a few experts in the sex space these days. I made myself a little list to make sure you knew who was there. 2 medical doctors who happen to be OBGYNs. That's awesome. We have a board-certified urologist who happens to be a sexual medicine specialist. We have a family nurse practitioner who's a women's health specialist, a somatic sexologist who is also a clinical sexuality and intimacy educator, a marriage and family therapist who is also a Christian sex therapist, a certified grief facilitator, a family nurse practitioner who is also a pelvic health specialist, a certified sexuality counselor and practice clinician, and a certified clinical trauma specialist. So you just heard in there a little bit about trauma and grief and all that. Well, you know what? It is traumatizing what we've been through. And I think one of the biggest things that we tend to ignore is the grief and loss that we feel after we're diagnosed. We need to be able to work through those things personally, and maybe even with our partner. You know, there's a lot of changes that happen with us. So we've got professionals on board that are going to help us do that. They are sharing tremendous amounts of information that are helping our women. So I want to strongly encourage you to listen to what they're saying. All of their interviews and information articles that they've written can be found on our podcast, on the blog, which is on our website, and inside our private Sex After Breast Cancer support group on Facebook. Our website is hopeafterbreastcancer.com, just so you know. We're building a treasure trove of information to help women navigate their intimate lives after a breast cancer diagnosis. So I hope that you'll really take advantage of all of that information. Go back to school, watch the videos, listen to the podcasts, okay? So from my perspective, again, just Jan, the top 2 sexual issues for women who have endured breast cancer seem to be lack of libido and painful intercourse. And many of us are suffering from both of those things. But this is so important. It took me a long time to understand this. I was beating myself up about why don't I have any desire anymore? Oh, you know, and why? Okay, listen closely. You cannot trick your brain into wanting sex if sex is going to be painful. Okay, one more time. You cannot trick your brain into wanting sex if sex is painful. You might want to say it with me. You cannot trick your brain into wanting sex if sex is painful. So newsflash number 2, I like to call it body before brain. You must fix your body before your brain can get back in the game. There's no way your brain will allow arousal or desire if you're asking it to do something that will be painful. Does that make sense? Body before brain. So even though lack of libido is a very, very common complaint with our women, I'm going to ask that we put that one on the back burner while we're getting painful intercourse straightened out, okay? One thing at a time. Once we get painful sex handled, we can more easily get lack of libido handled. So newsflash number 3. This isn't about lube. And the reason I wanted to talk about this is God bless you guys, that all the new girls in the Sex After Breast Cancer group, almost to a person, everybody comes into the group and then posts and says, hey, I'm having terrible, painful intercourse. What lube should I use? Well, okay. Lubes are great. Lubes can make sex better, can make sex fun. But the purpose of a lube is to reduce friction. That's it. Yeah, friction. If your vagina has changed because of breast cancer treatment, there is no lube in the world that's going to take away that painful intercourse. So go back to newsflash number 1, body before brain. Okay? Let's get your body fixed first. The truth is, we don't want to admit that weird stuff happened to your vagina because of treatment and the changes in your body that treatment created. We love to have these quick fixes. It's just who we are. So we try a lube and another lube and another lube, and we can't figure out why it's not working. Well, real talk, it's probably not going to happen. If you want to fix your vagina, it's going to take some work. Deliberate, dedicated work. Focus, time. You have to make it like a mission that you're going to reclaim your vagina. Okay? So here's your first step 1. The first thing you need to do is go see your gynae. Okay? You need to get diagnosed about what's going on. Everybody thinks it's just I don't have enough lube. I'm not secreting enough. Yeah, it's probably not that. You need to work with your gynae to try and fix your body before you can start desiring sex again, before you can start having sex without pain again. First things first, go see your gynae, okay? When you go to your gynae, you need to be able to verbalize what's happening with you because your situation is very unique. And that is not easy for all of us talking about sexual issues, right? But your gynae has heard it all. He or she has trained to help you with your reproductive and pelvic and sexual health, but you may not be able to verbalize your concerns very easily. So our incredible, amazing contributing expert, sexuality counselor Tracy Owen, has developed a healthcare provider worksheet that will help you be prepared for every appointment and make the time with your provider as productive as possible. It is super easy to download when you go to sexafterbreastcancer.com. That's sexafterbreastcancer.com. Go to the button that says get the worksheet, download it, save it for all your future appointments. Done. Then when you go to your gynae and share your concerns, show them the paper. You know, there's a place for you to make notes. Tracy even coaches you about the questions that your gynae is probably going to ask you. And you're probably going to have blood taken. You're definitely going to have a pelvic exam. But those things need to be done to put together an action plan for you. Okay? So there is step one. Newsflash number 4. Guess what? There are typically no quick solutions for these issues. Oh, if only if there were. Oh, well, but that's not the way it is. And every woman's treatment needs are unique. We've learned that through cancer, right, guys? There is no one size fits all solution. We all react to everything differently. Our bodies are marvelously and wonderfully made and unique. And treatment with this kind of thing is typically going to be ongoing. Be prepared to work alongside your medical provider to find the solutions that are right for you. The first thing that we need to do is find the cause of the pain. You need to know that your body may have multiple causes that are creating symptoms, and treating each one is critical. For example, painful intercourse may be caused by a bunch of different issues: skin issues, nerve function, muscular problems, or even a gynecological or pathology issue. Or you may be the lucky woman that has a combo poo-poo platter of multiple items on that list. When your provider has the bigger picture about your particular case, then they can make solid recommendations for how you should proceed. Okay? So it's going to take more than a lube to get back to sex that isn't painful. Okay? So let me talk about the most common issues that I see from our women about our vaginas. So there's a big category that I labeled skin issues and vaginal atrophy. How many of you have complained that having sex is like having glass shards shoved into your vagina? Yeah, that was me. Those kinds of things, like that's a skin issue and a nerve issue, right? There's those micro tears that happen in the tissue. Here's the deal. The loss of estrogen in our bodies makes our vaginal tissue super thin, paper thin sometimes. Some women even complain that when they wipe after going to the bathroom, that their vulvar tissue even tears. So you have to understand that there is a real decrease in the what I want to say, like the plumpness, the elasticity, the hydration of that tissue, which is a real problem. And that's because the estrogens left your body. So we have to take action to make that better, right? So there's several different things. Oh, let me go back a second. Vaginal atrophy, I'm going to talk to you about that in a minute because I have severe vaginal atrophy. That would just mean that literally the tissue has, if you think about atrophy, it's curled up and dyed. Yeah, kind of, but it is reversible. And so I'm going to talk to you about my own personal journey on that. So some of the solutions that we can talk about, and that these solutions will be listed in our description below. So no need to take notes. But I would say probably the number one thing to do is talk to your provider about using hyaluronic acid. I mentioned that I used hyaluronic acid vaginal suppositories. It's just like you insert one before bed and let it rehydrate and reinvigorate the tissue while you're sleeping. Super easy. I mentioned our sexuality counselor, Tracy Owen. She recommends 3 brands: Hyalogen, Reverie, and Gynatrof. Guess what? All of them non-hormonal. Guess what? All of them don't need a prescription. Hello. Okay. So there's a thing. Bunch of you have probably heard about the Mona Lisa touch laser treatment. So, basically the way I understand it is that they resurface the vaginal tissue. Let me say that again. The vaginal tissue with a laser, and it's supposed to, I don't know, recreate the collagen or something, whatever. I think it's officially called fractional carbon dioxide laser resurfacing. Here's what I know anecdotally from our group. It's a pricey thing to do, and it has to be done multiple times. And it feels like, and this is just my gut talking, it feels like some girls have success with it and some don't. Like, it feels 50-50-ish to me. That's totally non-scientific. That's just me talking. But it just doesn't seem like it's the magic bullet that everybody thought it would be a few years ago. There are other things to do, like Thermiva and Intrarosa. And then there's a thing called, I think we call it the O-shot in our community. It's actually PRP injections, which stands for platelet-rich protein injections. I did some research on this, and they actually use it also in sports medicine to inject platelet-rich protein into joints that are hurting or torn and that kind of thing. I don't know about you. I didn't really go in that direction because I understand that they use a local anesthetic before they do the injection in my vaginal tissue, but for some reason, I just wasn't interested in that. But that might be something you want to talk to your provider about. Okay. DHEA is another thing to consider. And again, I'll have all this in the description. We're going to talk about vaginal estrogen in a minute in more depth, but there's one other thing that I hear a lot about from a positive standpoint. And I'm going to guess that the bulk of you have never even heard of this, because I didn't until a few years ago. There is a discipline in women's health called pelvic floor therapy, or pelvic floor physical therapy. These are practitioners that help a woman strengthen or loosen their pelvic muscles. Now, visualize this. The pelvic floor almost looks like a basket that has multiple layers of muscles. And from my non-professional point of view, here's what I know. Those muscles are used to hold our organs in place. Those muscles are used to help us pee and poop. Those muscles are to help us have pleasure during sex. They've got all these different kinds of uses. But when they're out of whack, a lot of stuff can go wrong. Pelvic floor physical therapists would work with you. This is not a telehealth thing, by the way. That you need to be seen for this. This is important stuff for your body to work well. So the pelvic floor therapist would work with you, figure out what's going on, maybe have you work with dilators. So dilators are like Oh gosh, they can be, they're made out of plastic. Some of them are silicone, but I think they don't like to use those. I don't know. Your pelvic floor therapist may do something different, but anyway, it would be something that they're in various sizes. They start small, they get bigger. And so what that does is when you put that a small dilator into your vagina, and I think walk around with it for a while, I believe. I haven't done that, but that's what I hear. Then your body starts, those muscles start to loosen a bit, right? And then you keep moving up to larger and larger dilators until your muscles can accommodate a penis or whatever. So there's my really non-professional description of it. Oh boy, if my mother could hear me now. Okay. Anyway, so pelvic floor therapy, you guys, is really interesting because, like I've heard that folks that have had sexual abuse go to pelvic floor therapists because in essence, the trauma of that experience closes the door. And so they have to figure out how to open the door up again to have pleasant sex. And so it's really an amazing and I think little known discipline. I would tell you that the women in our Sex After Breast Cancer private support group that have used pelvic floor therapists rave about it. And I am so grateful to kind of bring that out in the open and say, this is something that you really might want to look into. You definitely want to talk to your gynae about it because it might not be something that you need, but you should definitely know about it. Okay. So pelvic floor therapy or pelvic floor physical therapy. Now, time for some real talk from Mama Bear Jan James. Here I am. Okay, I'm going to tell you about my personal issues, and I'm just doing that in the hopes that my story is going to help someone out there, okay? I was diagnosed with severe vaginal atrophy a few years ago. Now, true confession, after I heard that, I buried my head in the sand, and I didn't do much about it. I was like, oh my gosh, one more thing. Cancer, oh, stupid cancer. I had heard about Mona Lisa and we didn't really have the money to do that. And quite frankly, I didn't want to do that. So then I used hyaluronic acid vaginal suppositories for a while. But because it wasn't a quick fix, I stopped. And then I just ignored it. I just ignored it for a few years until recently. So I have been, talking to our contributing experts and learning along the way. And now I am really actually very focused on getting my vaginal health back. And I have a plan to do that. The lack of estrogen in my body after I went through breast cancer treatment and menopause simultaneously caused my vaginal tissue to totally degenerate. It's a mess. The skin is extremely thin inside my vagina. It's turned deep purple, which I don't appreciate because purple used to be my favorite color. No, it still is my favorite color. But when my gynae handed me a hand mirror to see what my deep purple vagina looked like, I was like, oh, well, that ruined everything, but oh, well. So let's see what else. The vaginal canal has shortened and tightened. And now, just a couple of weeks ago, I was diagnosed with a prolapsed urethra. Now, oh, that's awesome, right? Sounds great. Well, that means my urethra is mildly pushing against my vaginal walls, and I have a delayed ability to start a urine stream. So more good times. Okay. So that's where we're at. And I had estrogen positive breast cancer, like many of you. And I have been told not to go near anything that has any hormones by my oncologist. Now, here's newsflash number 5. There is a growing body of work that indicates that vaginal estrogen is not harmful to women who have had breast cancer. Just last week, there was a press release from the North American Menopausal Association or Society. North American Menopausal Society, NAMS, that said they are pro-vaginal estrogen now. There's just so much research out there that says it's okay, but I get it. It is definitely a personal decision. Okay. I have done a ton of personal research about vaginal estrogen. And 6 of our contributing experts, one of whom happens to be my personal gynecologist, have given me strong encouragement to use vaginal estrogen to restore my vaginal tissue and to turn around the prolapsed urethra. Okay. After another one of the experts, it really encouraged me to read this book called Estrogen Matters. And after I read that, I was convinced that using vaginal estrogen was the direction I wanted to go. The book was written by a medical oncologist whose wife was diagnosed with breast cancer. And he is a very strong advocate for estrogen now. There is massive research in that book. The book reads like it's a page turner. It's like a thriller. It's unbelievable, the story about why the medical industry demonized estrogen for the last 20 some years. So if you'd want to find out more in a quick way, you can check out episode 10 of our podcast with Dr. Melody Rodarte. She and I have a great conversation about this book, and it's just informational. It's something that you should know about. So check that out as well, okay? So with all that being said, I'm about to start using vaginal estrogen regularly, but that's my scenario, not yours. It's my choice to do that. You don't need to. There are other options to explore, as we discussed earlier, to rejuvenate the vaginal tissue. Talk to your gynae. Okay. And remember how we talked about the fact that there's no quick fixes. I'm being told by my gynae and our experts to not expect any tangible results from using vaginal estrogen for at least 2 to 3 months. Oh, goody. All right. So it's like I have to just use it at night and then just not even think about it and put something on my calendar for 2 months from now to say, hey, is there any movement on any of that stuff? We'll see. Anyway. And after that, I would expect I'll need to see a pelvic floor therapist to get my muscles back in order. So this is going to be a little bit of a journey. As my gynae says, you need to remember it's going to be like watching grass grow. So again, good times, but necessary. I'm actually really excited to have a plan of action. I'm excited that the professionals I'm talking to are telling me there's hope. There's hope for me. And guess what? There's hope for you too. So what's your action plan? I'm going to give you just two easy steps to take to get your plan going. Step number 1, we already talked about it. Set up your appointment with your gynae. Don't forget to download the healthcare provider worksheet on sexafterbreastcancer.com. And if you don't have a gynae that will work alongside you to find the solutions that are right for you, get another gynae. Find one you can communicate with, who listens to your concerns, who's committed to getting your vagina back to full health. And then step number 2, go to sexafterbreastcancer.com, join our community, get into the discussion, meet our contributing experts, read the articles and watch the videos we provided for you on our website and inside the groups. And goodness, listen to the podcast, which has brand new content every week from our contributing experts. We are there for you and for your vagina. So let's do this, ladies. There is hope after breast cancer. This is Jan James. We'll see you next time. Girlfriend, thank you so much for listening to our podcast. I hope you found some nuggets to encourage you and give you hope. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. You never want to miss an episode. And we'd love to know how we're doing, so please be sure to leave us a review. Until next time, this is Jan James encouraging you to remember there is hope after breast cancer. See you next time.